The day my grandmother died, I lost more than just the woman who raised me. I lost my future, my security, and my faith in family, all because my sister Amanda decided that being clever meant being cruel. I was in the garden when it happened, tending to Grandma Eleanor's prize roses. She taught me everything about them, which varieties needed more water, how to prune just right, when to cover them before frost. While Amanda was off at law school, living the high life on Grandma's money, I had stayed close to home, helping care for the woman who'd taken us in after our parents' accident. The roses look beautiful, Kate. My Aunt Susan's voice made me jump. She stood at the garden gate, her eyes red from crying. She's gone, sweetheart. About an hour ago. The pruning shears fell from my numb fingers. But I just saw her this morning. She was fine. We had tea, she told me about. Amanda was with her at the end. Susan cut in, her voice strange. She had Grandma sign some papers. My blood ran cold. What papers? 2 weeks later, I sat in our family lawyer's office, listening as Mr. Harrison read the new will, the one Amanda had somehow convinced Grandma to sign just hours before her death. And to my granddaughter Amanda, who has shown such promise in her legal studies, I leave my entire estate, including the house, investments, and the trust fund originally intended for Catherine. I couldn't breathe. The trust fund, $4 million that Grandma had set aside for me years ago, knowing I'd inherited her love of gardening and wanted to start my own landscaping business. All of it now Amanda's. This can't be right, I whispered. Grandma would never. Oh, but she did. Amanda's voice dripped satisfaction. She sat across from me in her expensive suit, every inch the polished law student. Everything's perfectly legal. I made sure of that. Mr. Harrison looked uncomfortable. The will appears properly executed, though the timing is unusual. Unusual? I stood up, anger finally breaking through my shock. She was dying. Amanda waited until she was barely conscious and what? Amanda's smile was cold. Made sound legal decisions. Protected the family assets from someone who wants to waste them on dirt and flowers. Please. I'm the one with the law degree, the one with actual potential. Grandma finally saw that. I stormed out of the office, Amanda's laughter following me. But as I drove home for now, until Amanda evicted me, a memory surfaced, one that gave me hope. It was from 3 months ago, one of our quiet evenings together while I helped Grandma sort through old photographs. Katie girl, she'd said, using her special nickname for me, remember the story about the missing diamond? I did. It was one of her favorites, about how her mother had hidden her most precious diamond necklace during the Depression, leaving clues in an old book. Everyone thought it was lost forever until Grandma found it years later, exactly where the clues said it would be. Sometimes, she continued, her eyes twinkling, the most valuable things need to be hidden where only the right person will think to look. At the time, I thought she was just reminiscing. Now, I pulled into the driveway of the grand old house that had been my home since I was 8. Amanda's house now, according to the new will. But something told me Grandma Eleanor, who'd spent her life outsmarting people who underestimated her, had one last trick up her sleeve. That evening, after Amanda left for her hotel, she wouldn't move in until I was gone, of course. I went to the library. The room was a maze of floor-to-ceiling bookshelves containing everything from first editions to gardening manuals. I went straight to the worn copy of The Secret Garden, Grandma's favorite book, and the first one she'd read to me after my parents died. Inside the front cover was her familiar handwriting. For my Katie girl, who understands that the most precious gardens are the ones we tend with love. Below that, in writing that looked shaky but determined, dated just 1 week before her death. The real treasure is hidden where the roses bloom in winter. My hands trembled as I closed the book. The roses that bloom in winter. Amanda would never understand the reference, but I did. In the greenhouse, there was a special section where Grandma grew her winter roses, a rare variety that bloomed to spite the cold. And under those roses, I practically ran to the greenhouse, fumbling with the key she'd given me years ago. In the back corner, the winter roses were still blooming, their pale pink petals ghostly in the moonlight. It took me an hour of careful digging, not wanting to damage the precious plants. Finally, my fingers hit something solid, a metal box, sealed against the elements. Inside was a document, a will, dated 1 month before her death, witnessed by her doctor and banker. And with it, a letter. My dearest Katie, If you're reading this, then Amanda has done exactly what I feared she might. Her father, your Uncle Richard, was the same way. Always taking, never understanding the value of growing things. This is my true will. The one Amanda made me sign won't stand against it. I've left instructions with my old friend Judge Morris, along with evidence of any undue influence Amanda might have used. The trust fund is yours, as it was always meant to be. The house, too. Amanda has her own trust from her father's side, though she conveniently never mentioned that, did she? Plant your gardens, my darling girl. Grow beautiful things. And remember that sometimes the best revenge against clever people is to be wise instead. All my love, Grandma Eleanor. I sat there in the greenhouse, surrounded by the roses we tended together, holding the proof that my grandmother had outsmarted the lawyer-to-be who thought she knew everything. Tomorrow, I'd take the will to Judge Morris. Tonight, I'd let Amanda enjoy her apparent victory. Let her think her legal tricks had won. Grandma always said the best gardens require patience. Sometimes justice does too. I carefully replaced the earth around the winter roses, making sure they were settled properly. As I worked, I could almost hear Grandma's voice. Remember, Katie girl, roses have thorns for a reason. Sometimes the most delicate things are also the best at defending themselves. She'd known Amanda would try something like this, and she prepared. Not with legal tricks or deft manipulation, but with wisdom and love and trust in the granddaughter who understood her best. Tomorrow would change everything. But tonight, I had the roses, the real will, and the knowledge that Grandma's last act had been to protect not just me, but the values she'd spent her life teaching me. Amanda thought being clever meant knowing the law. But Grandma had taught me that true wisdom means knowing people's hearts. And in the end, that wisdom had proven stronger than all my sister's legal tricks. I locked up the greenhouse, the metal box secure in my bag. In her hotel room across town, Amanda was probably celebrating her victory, imagining all the ways she'd spend her stolen inheritance. Let her celebrate. The best victories are the ones you never see coming. The next morning, I arrived at Judge Morris's chambers clutching both the metal box and a bouquet of winter roses. His secretary's eyes widened when I gave my name. Miss Catherine, the judge has been expecting you. He said to send you in immediately if you ever came. Judge Morris was exactly as Grandma had described him, tall, distinguished, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He stood as I entered, looking at the roses with understanding. Eleanor's winter roses, he said softly. So you found it. I placed the metal box on his desk. You knew? He nodded, settling back into his chair. Your grandmother came to me a month before she passed. She knew Amanda was planning something. The new trust fund documents your sister had been reviewing for her. They were a red flag. He opened the box, examining the will and accompanying documents. Eleanor was no fool. She kept detailed records of every conversation with Amanda over the past year. The subtle pressure, the manipulative suggestions, the convenient legal advice about changing her will. Will it be enough? I asked. To invalidate the deathbed will? Judge Morris smiled. More than enough. But Eleanor wanted to wait, to let Amanda show her true colors first. She said, and I quote, sometimes you have to let the weeds grow tall enough to pull them out by the roots. 2 hours later, I sat in the main conference room of Harrison and Associates, watching Amanda stride in with her usual confident smirk. Her new designer handbag probably cost more than my car, no doubt purchased with what she thought was her new inheritance. Really, Kate, she sighed, seeing me. More legal challenges? I thought I explained this clearly. The will is ironclad. Is it? Judge Morris's voice made her spin around. He stood in the doorway, holding the metal box. Perhaps we should discuss the actual ironclad will, the one your grandmother prepared when she was of sound mind and body, not hours from death. Amanda's face went pale. What is this? Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. Amanda, you might want to sit down for this. The next hour was a masterclass in justice. Judge Morris methodically went through every document, the real will, Grandma's detailed records of Amanda's manipulation, statements from the doctor about her mental state in her final hours. This is ridiculous, Amanda interrupted, but her voice shook. That will isn't valid. I made sure. She stopped, realizing what she just admitted. Made sure of what? Judge Morris asked mildly. That your grandmother was too weak to resist when you pressured her to sign a new will. The one you had prepared in advance, just waiting for the right moment. I deserved that inheritance, Amanda shouted, her polished facade cracking. I'm the one with the law degree, the one with real plans. Kate just wants to play in the dirt like some glorified gardener. Your grandmother, Judge Morris said firmly, wanted her estate used to create beautiful things, not fund a lifestyle of manipulation and greed. She chose Catherine because she saw in her the same values she held dear. This isn't over, Amanda snarled, grabbing her designer bag. I'll fight this. You'll what? I finally spoke. Use your legal knowledge. The knowledge you used to manipulate a dying woman. By the way, Grandma knew about your other trust fund. The one from Uncle Richard. Amanda froze. How did she? She had better lawyers than you, Judge Morris smiled. Ones with ethics. That trust fund is quite substantial, isn't it? More than enough to fund your real plans without stealing from your sister. Watching Amanda's face, I finally understood what Grandma had meant about letting weeds grow tall enough to pull out either roots. My sister had revealed exactly who she was, and now she couldn't hide it anymore. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Amanda's deathbed will was invalidated. The real will was verified and executed. And my sister, well, she did what she'd always done when things didn't go her way. She ran. Last I heard, she'd taken a job at a corporate law firm in Chicago, probably plotting her next clever scheme. But she'd lost more than just the inheritance. She'd lost any claim to Grandma's legacy, the house, the gardens, the respect of everyone who'd known Eleanor Mills. I stood in the greenhouse, tending to the winter roses that had protected Grandma's real will. The trust fund was being transferred to my accounts. But that wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was that I could finally start building what Grandma and I had planned together. The landscaping business would focus on creating sustainable gardens, teaching people to grow beautiful things even in unlikely places, like winter roses blooming despite the cold. Miss Catherine, my new assistant Sarah poked her head in. The contractors are here to discuss the education center plans. I smiled, remembering Grandma's vision, using part of the estate to create a place where children could learn about gardening, about patience, about helping things grow. Tell them I'll be right there, just finishing up with the roses. As I gathered my tools, I spotted something carved into the greenhouse wall, hidden behind a climbing vine. Grandma's handwriting. For my Katie girl, remember that the most valuable things we grow are not the flowers themselves, but the wisdom to nurture them, the patience to wait for them, and the love to share them. Never let the clever people make you doubt your kind of wisdom. I touched the words gently. Amanda had thought she was so smart, using legal tricks to steal what she wanted. But Grandma had understood a deeper truth, that real wealth isn't just about money. It's about values, about growing things that last, about leaving the world more beautiful than you found it. The contractors were waiting to help me build something new, something that would honor Grandma's legacy in a way Amanda's legal schemes never could. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving someone wrong. It's proving yourself right. I locked up the greenhouse, patting the winter roses one last time. They'd done their job, protecting Grandma's real will until the right moment. Now it was my turn to protect her legacy, to grow it into something even more beautiful. Amanda had wanted to take everything, thinking that cleverness was enough. But Grandma had known better. She trusted that wisdom, patience, and love would win in the end. And as always, Grandma had been right. 1 year after finding Grandma's real will, I stood in the transformed backyard of the estate, watching as dozens of children planted their first seeds in the new learning gardens. The Eleanor Mills Garden Education Center was everything Grandma and I had dreamed of, and more. Miss Kate. 7-year-old Tommy ran up, his hands covered in soil. My sunflower is taller than Billy's. Remember what we learned about gardening? I knelt beside him. It's not about being better than someone else's flower. It's about helping your own grow strong. He nodded seriously. Like your grandma's winter roses? Exactly like that. The winter roses had become something of a legend among the students. I propagated them carefully, creating a special section where they bloomed year-round, reminding me daily of Grandma's wisdom. Sarah approached, tablet in hand. The magazine crew is here for the interview, and there's something else you should see. She handed me her tablet, open to a legal news website. The headline made my stomach clench. Rising star attorney disbarred for ethical violations. The photo showed Amanda being escorted from her Chicago law office, clutching her designer bag like a shield. According to the article, she'd been caught falsifying documents in a major corporate case, the same trick she tried to use with Grandma's will, but this time with less success. Her firm is pressing charges, Sarah added quietly. They're saying this wasn't her first offense. I handed back the tablet, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Part of me was sad for my sister, whose cleverness had finally outsmarted itself. But another part remembered her smirk as she tried to steal my inheritance, her contempt for everything Grandma valued. Miss Kate. Tommy tugged my sleeve. Can we water the roses now? Of course, sweetie. The roses always come first. But life has a way of bringing things full circle. 3 days later, I found Amanda sitting on the front steps of the estate, looking nothing like the polished lawyer who tried to steal my inheritance. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, her makeup smeared. Come to gloat? She asked bitterly. Actually, I'm here to tend the gardens. You know, playing in the dirt as you called it. She flinched. I lost everything, Kate. My job, my reputation, my future. Like you tried to take everything from me. That was different. I had plans, ambitions. And I didn't. I gestured at the thriving education center, the new greenhouses, the lines of children eagerly learning about nature. This was my ambition, Amanda, creating something that helps things grow, including people. I need help, she whispered. Money, a place to stay. I'm your sister. I looked at her for a long moment, remembering Grandma's words about wisdom versus cleverness. You're right, you are my sister, which is why I'm going to help you, but not the way you want. What do you mean? There's a position open here. Assistant gardener, working with the children's program. Room and board included, modest salary. Hard work, dirty hands, and a chance to learn what Grandma tried to teach us both. You want me to be your gardener? She sounded horrified. I'm a lawyer, or I was. No, I want you to learn what real growth looks like, to understand why Grandma chose me to carry on her legacy. Take it or leave it. She stared at the ground for a long time. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, when do I start? The next few months were interesting. Amanda struggled with the physical work, complained about the early mornings, and initially treated the children like annoying obstacles. But gradually, something changed. I found her one evening in the winter rose section, carefully removing dead leaves from the plants. They're so delicate, she said, not looking at me. But strong too. I never understood before. What Grandma saw in them. What she saw in you. Amanda's hands stilled on the roses. I thought being clever was enough. That knowing the law meant I could take whatever I wanted. But watching you here, seeing what you've built. It's what we've built, I corrected her. Grandma's legacy. She finally turned to face me, eyes shining with tears. I found this. She pulled a folded paper from her pocket, in one of Grandma's old books. It was a photo of us as children before our parents' accident. Amanda and I were in Grandma's garden, both covered in mud, laughing as we planted marigolds. We were both gardeners once, I said softly. Think I could be one again. I handed her a pair of pruning shears. Winter roses need careful handling. Want to learn? As I taught my sister the proper way to tend the roses that had saved her from her own worst instincts, I thought about Grandma's final lesson. Sometimes the things we try to take by force only come to us when we're ready to nurture them instead. Amanda had wanted to steal an inheritance. Instead, she was finally inheriting what really mattered, the wisdom to help things grow. The children started calling her Miss Mandy, delighting in teaching her what they'd learned about patience, care, and the joy of seeing something bloom against the odds. And in the greenhouse, where winter roses still guarded their long-ago secret, two sisters learned to grow something new from the roots of the past. Grandma would have liked that. After all, she'd always said the best gardens have room for every kind of flower, even the ones that take a little longer to bloom. I was 12 when I first learned I was the wrong gender for my family's legacy. It was career day at school, and I proudly told my class I would one day run Mitchell Manufacturing just like my father. That night, I overheard my parents talking. She's got such a head for business, Richard, my mother said. You should see how she lights up when you talk about the company. My father's response was immediate. It doesn't matter. The company goes to David. That's tradition. Girls don't run manufacturing companies. 15 years later, I stood in my brother's office, our father's old office, watching him sign the paperwork that would fire me from the company I'd given my life to. Nothing personal, Emma, David smirked, sliding the papers across his desk. But let's be honest, you're not cut out for this. Maybe start a cute little boutique, something more feminine. I kept my face neutral as I signed, remembering every sacrifice I had made. The Stanford MBA, the countless late nights, the supply chain innovations that had boosted profits by 40% last year. None of it mattered. I had the wrong chromosomes. Clear out your desk by end of day, David added, already turning back to his phone. And Emma? Dad was right. Girls don't belong in manufacturing. I walked out with my head high, past employees who wouldn't meet my eyes, past the systems I built, which David had spent the last year dismantling in favor of his golf buddies' half-baked ideas. In my office, mine for one more hour, I packed up 15 years of work, photos, awards, business plans Dad had never read. And at the bottom of a drawer, I found something that made me smile for the first time that day. A list of every supplier, contractor, and logistics company Mitchell Manufacturing depended on, along with their contract renewal dates. David had never cared about the relationships I had built, the trust I had earned, the favors I was owed. A shadow fell across my doorway. Marcus Chen, head of logistics. His expression told me he knew exactly what had happened. Need help with those boxes? I shook my head. I'm fine, Marcus. But remember that conversation we had last month? About starting our own logistics company? He nodded slowly. You mean the one where you mentioned having enough capital to buy out 3 major shipping contractors? I pulled up an email draft I prepared months ago when I first saw this day coming. How would you like to be COO of Summit Logistics? Incorporated last week. Fully funded. Ready to start operations. His eyes widened as he scanned the business plan. Emma, this could control the entire regional supply chain. If you got the right contracts. You mean the ones up for renewal? The ones David doesn't even know are expiring? Understanding dawned on his face. You've been planning this. For years, I admitted. Why fight for a seat at their table when I can build my own? Over the next 2 hours, more visitors arrived. Sarah from accounting passed over for a promotion in favor of David's friend. James from operations ignored when he warned about quality control issues. One by one, they accepted job offers from Summit Logistics. By the time security arrived to escort me out, my team was in place. My plan was in motion. David called after me from his office. Goodbye, Emma. Some people just aren't meant for real business. I smiled, knowing it would infuriate him. Goodbye, David. Give my best to Hansen Shipping. While you still can. The confusion on his face was priceless. That night, I sat in my home office, surrounded by the silly girl thoughts that would soon revolutionize regional logistics. My phone buzzed. Jack Hansen, CEO of Hansen Shipping, confirming our Monday meeting. I looked at the old photo on my desk. Dad standing proudly beside David, his hand on his son's shoulder. Me slightly off to the side. Always edge out of the frame. Girls don't run manufacturing companies, Dad had said. He was right. I wouldn't be running a manufacturing company. I'd be running the entire supply chain they couldn't survive without. Monday morning arrived with a flurry of panicked texts from David. I ignored them, focusing instead on the Hansen Shipping contract spread across my new conference table. Emma, this is brilliant, Jack Hansen said, reviewing our proposal. Real-time tracking, optimized routes, consolidated shipping lanes. This could cut costs by 30%. The same proposal I gave Mitchell Manufacturing last quarter, I said, before they dismissed it as overcomplicating things. Their loss, our gain. Jack signed with a flourish. Summit Logistics is now our exclusive regional partner. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. I picked up. What the hell did you do? David's voice was shrill. Hansen just canceled our contract. Did they? How unfortunate. I heard they signed with some new logistics company. Summit something. You're behind this. Behind what, David? A better business model? Isn't that what you called real business? The stream of profanity that followed was cut short when I hung up. I had more meetings to attend. By Wednesday, we secured 5 more contracts. Thursday, we acquired the region's largest warehousing operation. Friday, we announced our new supply chain management system. the same one David had dismissed months ago. Mitchell Manufacturing stock dropped 15% today, Marcus reported, handing me my afternoon coffee. Investors are panicking over supply chain instability. Just wait until next week, I said. Phase 2 begins Monday. It was beautiful in its simplicity. We didn't just control shipping now, we were about to control raw materials. The contracts I had quietly cultivated over years were all coming due within weeks. David never saw it coming, but he would. Soon. Emergency board meeting, Sarah announced, skimming her tablet. Mitchell Manufacturing is in crisis. Unprecedented supply chain disruptions. Their words, not mine. I could picture it perfectly. David, pacing the office he stole, fumbling for excuses as furious board members demanded answers. He'd blame everyone but himself, never realizing his own arrogance had created his worst nightmare. The next few weeks were a masterclass in strategic dismantling. Every supplier Mitchell Manufacturing approached, we offered a better deal. Every shipping route they tried to secure, we optimized a competing one. Piece by piece, the empire they took for granted crumbled. Then finally, the call I'd been expecting. Emma, my mother's voice was hesitant. We need to talk. I let the silence stretch. About? The company. Which one, Mom? Mitchell Manufacturing or Summit Logistics? Because only one of them is thriving. A pause. Your father, he never meet. Never meant what? I cut in, to dismiss every idea I had, to hand the company to David just because he was a man, to let him run it into the ground while he ignored every warning. More silence. Then softly, the board meeting is tomorrow. David, he's going to lose his position. The shareholders are furious. I almost laughed. Sounds like a personnel issue. Nothing to do with me. Please, Emma, he's your brother. Funny, he wasn't my brother when he was firing me and mocking my business ideas. I hung up, no regret, no second thoughts. But her words lingered, not because I felt any obligation to save David, but because tomorrow's board meeting wouldn't just mark my victory. It would determine whether I settled for winning or claimed total dominance. I picked up my phone. Jack, remember that expansion plan we discussed? Move it up. We announce it at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The next morning, I watched the Mitchell Manufacturing board meeting via video link, an easy arrangement when you control a company's entire communications infrastructure. David looked terrible. His usual crisp suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. He stood before the board, floundering as he tried to explain Mitchell's 40% drop in value. We're exploring alternative supply chain options, he stammered, reaching out to new partners. There are no new partners, a board member interrupted. Summit Logistics has locked up the entire regional network. They just announced a $200 million expansion. Face it, David, we're dead in the water. David tugged at his collar. Maybe we could reach out to Summit. Try to negotiate. The boardroom door opened. Oh, now you want to negotiate? Every head turned. I stepped inside, my Summit Logistics ID badge gleaming. Dad half rose from his chair. Emma, what are you doing here? I smiled, representing the only company in this room that actually knows how to run a business. David's face darkened. You planned this. You sabotaged us. I shook my head. No, David. I built something better. Something you could have had, if you hadn't been so convinced that girls don't belong in business. I laid out my offer. Fair, more than fair, really. Summit would absorb all employees, preserve the Mitchell name on key product lines, and ensure the company's legacy continued. Just not under David. All in favor? The board chairman asked. The vote was unanimous. Even Dad, looking resigned, raised his hand. David lurched to his feet. This isn't right. Dad, tell them. Dad's voice was heavy. It's over, son. He turned to me. Emma, I was wrong. About everything. I met his gaze without flinching. Yes, you were. Then I turned to leave, but paused. Oh, and David, don't bother packing your office. I had it cleared out this morning. Try not to feel too bad. Some people just aren't meant for real business. His own words thrown back at him. The perfect ending to a plan 15 years in the making. That evening, I sat in my real office, earned through skill, not chromosomes. Framed on the wall was my first act as CEO. Mitchell Manufacturing's stock certificate. Sarah appeared in the doorway. Your father is here. He looked older than I remembered. Smaller somehow. The company, he started, is thriving, I finished. No thanks to your outdated ideas about who should run it. He exhaled. I'm sorry. I arched a brow. For what? Not believing in me. Dismissing me? Handing the company to David without a second thought. Each accusation landed like a weight. For all of it, he admitted. For underestimating you. For thinking talent had anything to do with gender. I studied him, searching for insincerity. I found none. Well, I said finally, at least you're learning. He nodded. I am. Then, hesitating. That's actually why I came. I want you to meet someone. A young woman rolled in beside him, a wheelchair-bound engineer with sharp eyes and an air of quiet brilliance. Emma, this is Jessica Chen, Dad said, a manufacturing prodigy from MIT. I thought you should hear her out. I raised an eyebrow, and why is that? He actually blushed, because when I saw her proposals, I realized something. I remembered all the ideas of yours I never read, and I didn't want to make the same mistake twice. Jessica looked nervous but determined. Mr. Mitchell said you might be interested in my AI integration models for production efficiency. I smiled. I am, but first, tell me about yourself. Not your gender, not your disability, just your vision for the future of manufacturing. Her eyes lit up. As she launched into her ideas, I caught Dad watching us, pride and regret warring on his face. Later that night, Mom stopped by my office. I saw David today. How's customer service treating him? I smirked. She sighed. He's humbled, and he wanted me to give you this. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. Emma, I spent years believing I deserved success just because of who I was. You proved that success is earned. You built something incredible, and you beat me fair and square. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I will say this. I see it now. I see you now. I'm proud of you. David ***. I exhaled slowly, folding the letter. I didn't need his pride. But maybe, just maybe, I'd appreciated it. Smiling, I turned back to my desk. There was still work to do. After all, this empire wasn't going to build itself. And now everyone knew exactly whose hands it belonged in. I read the letter twice, then picked up my phone. David, be in my office tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. Bring your customer service reports and any real ideas you've gathered from actually listening to our clients. The next morning he walked in. Gone was the overconfident CEO swagger. In its place was something quieter, humbled. Sit down, I said. Tell me what you've learned. For the next hour, David laid out a detailed analysis of customer complaints, supply chain inefficiencies, and possible solutions. He hadn't just done the work, he'd understood it. Not bad, I said when he finished. How would you like to head up our new customer experience division? His eyes widened. You trust me with that. Trust is earned, just like leadership. Just like respect. That's how this company works now. And it did. Over the next year, Mitchell Manufacturing became something neither Dad nor David had ever envisioned. Jessica's AI-driven production systems transformed our efficiency. David's customer-first strategies rebuilt our reputation. Summit Logistics remained an industry powerhouse. But the real transformation, that happened in the company's culture. Walk into any Mitchell Manufacturing facility now, and you'll find leadership built on talent, not tradition. You'll see Jessica mentoring a new generation of engineers, David working alongside her, learning instead of dictating, and Dad, semi-retired, but still watching with something between pride and regret. Your latest article's making waves, Marcus said one morning, tossing a magazine onto my desk. The cover showed me standing on the factory floor. The headline read, The Manufacturing Maven, How Emma Mitchell Revolutionized an Industry While Breaking Glass Ceilings. Marcus grinned. Best part is the sidebar about our mentorship program. The Mitchell Future Leaders Program, my passion project. It opened doors for brilliant minds often overlooked due to gender, disability, or background. Like Jessica, who was now guiding pre-promising engineering students. Dad called it expensive charity at first, I mused, until he saw the innovations coming out of it. Speaking of Dad, Marcus gestured toward my office door. He stood there, holding a familiar leather portfolio, the same one that had once contained my business proposals, the ones he'd ignored. "I found these while cleaning out my old office," he said quietly. "Finally read them. They were brilliant, Emma. They still are. I'm sorry I couldn't see that sooner." I took the portfolio, flipping through the ideas that had built my empire. "Want to hear my latest proposal? Expanding the mentorship program internationally." He sat down, eyes filled with something I'd never seen before. Respect. "Tell me everything." And so I did. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving someone wrong. It's proving yourself right. Again and again. Until even the deepest prejudices crumble under the weight of undeniable success. David stops by my office every Friday now, not as the entitled hare he once was, but as someone who finally understands what real leadership means. "You know what I realized?" he said one afternoon. "When Dad said, 'Girls don't belong in business,' he wasn't just wrong about you. He was wrong about business itself. It's not about gender or control. It's about vision," I finished. "About building something that lasts. About recognizing talent, wherever you find it." He nodded. "Thanks for teaching me that, even if your method was dramatic." I smiled, thinking back to the day I took his company from him. Some lessons are meant to hurt. On my office wall, my old termination papers still hang beside my stock certificates, but now they're surrounded by something even more important: photos of our diverse leadership team, of our mentees, of the future we're building. And in one, David and I stand side by side on the factory floor, not as rivals, but as leaders. Because the greatest victory isn't just proving someone wrong about you. It's helping them be right about everything else.